Counselor Greenmeyer.
Here.
Counselor Owen.
Here.
Counselor Barton Mullins.
Here.
Counselor Quimby.
Here.
Counselor Arnold.
Here.
Mayor Weatherby.
Here, and Dr. Prom is excused. Would you all rise while I lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you and welcome. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Mayor, I would like to approve the consent agenda with the changes that were made, and I think we all have a new copy of that.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It is passed unanimously. Next, citizens wishing to speak on non-agenda items. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on a non-agenda item? All right. Seeing that, next, the city administrator and director reports. Sam?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Just have a few updates for you. I want to remind citizens that the city is still accepting applications for the Arts and Community Events Advisory Committee. We're accepting those through March 22nd. Also wanted to remind people that the Budget Committee meetings are coming in April. We do hold those the last 3 Mondays of the month. So that's April 15th, 22nd, and 29th, and encourage people to come to those as well. I also wanted to remind the citizens and council that, you know, we instituted these new monthly newsletters. At the recommendation of one of the council members, Councilor Arnold, we've started beginning to highlight some of the features on our city website in order to try and encourage citizens to utilize the features. The one we've have highlighted this month is called Notify Me. What this is a feature where citizens can go onto the city website and sign up, and they will be alerted they'll get automatic emails for news flashes, news alerts. If there's an emergency that we put out, they would get notification of that. If we add something to our calendar, or if we cancel a meeting on our calendar, those things, they come automatically. So really encourage people to sign up for Notify Me, but also take a look at the newsletter on a monthly basis and see what features are available that we're highlighting. And I have just a couple updates from the last meeting. The farmers market, we're working on that process. The city event endorsement standards staff is working on compiling a lot of research and information regarding developing those in order to provide to the committee to look at. We are also, we have been contacted by the East County BITE, and just kind of preliminary discussions about different things as a result of our meeting last week. And those are my updates for this week. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
Councilor Barton Mullins.
I understand, I believe it's the Parks Committee that 2 people have resigned.
We've had one person resign from Parks Committee today, just because he wants to do some other things.
Oh, maybe it was PSAC.
It's PSAC.
Okay.
The Public Safety Advisory Committee. We've had 2 recent resignations from that committee.
So are we going to then go ahead and advertise again for that?
Yes, that's what our hope is. We do have current applicants that we have reached out to and asked about applying as well. Mm-hmm. And the current applicants on some of our other committees, to let them know that we've had some recent openings and try and encourage the current applicants as well as any future applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay,
Okay, and we're going to have Chief Johnson with his report.
welcome.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, 3 items tonight. One, we've had a increase or rash of burglaries centered around Old Town from 7th and Halsey to about 223 and Bridge. We had an opportunity today due to our overlap Wednesday to have all the teams get together and compare the evidence and the MOs, modus operandi, and hopefully we're developing some suspect information. Sounds like they have some good leads, but we're talking 5 or 6 burglaries in a short period of time, all with the same method of entry. So, and some evidence left behind. So it's a good reminder, not just for those of you that live in the area that seems to be targeted, and this is during daytime hours when people are at work, to be conscious of that, work with your neighbors. The more eyes, the better on your neighborhood, watching out for each other, and I strongly encourage alarms, audible at least, to scare them away and give us an opportunity to get there and alert us that the burglary has occurred. Yesterday, I participated in a phone call that was initiated by Multnomah County Commissioner Kafori. She was reaching out, as I understand it, to the police chiefs on an ordinance that she wants to introduce entitled to prevent gun violence and address illegal gun use in Multnomah County. During this phone call, and if you see the ordinance, there's some concerning language in it. I personally urged her to reach out to all of the councilors, all of the mayors of every city in this county, because it impacts all of us. And there's a specific provision in there that gives us an opt-out clause if we want to exempt ourselves from some of the standards. They're concerning, some of them requiring 30-day minimum jail sentences for what in essence would be an innocent citizen that made a mistake. And we're very concerned about that when they can't house the prisoners we currently have that commit much more serious crimes. So we met with the DA today, Rod Underhill, expressed our concerns as well. Not sure where it's going to happen. Hopefully you will be contacted by Commissioner Kafori. We've also been contacted by Diane McKeel as well, wanting our input on this. But it definitely needs to go to the city councils of the cities in the county. And finally, you may have read that our officers, through a nomination process, nominated and then ultimately selected Brad Robertson as the Officer of the Year for this year. He'll be the first repeat person that's ever been nominated and selected twice as Officer of the Year. Long list of things that he does. He's phenomenal. He carried the weight to a large degree on the recent homicide of little Miranda, and we're grateful for the work that he did coming back from MGET to take over and assist us with the detective work and the major crimes team. He will be recognized this Saturday night. The Gresham Elks always does an annual Public Safety Officer of the Year kind of for all of the departments in East County. We always participate in that. Mayor Weatherby is going to be there as well this Saturday night, where we'll have an opportunity to recognize Brad. They'll give him a plaque, and we'll get to shake his hand and acknowledge him. And then there'll be further when we get to our awards program later this year. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Councilor Arnold.
Thank you, Chief. I was looking at the reports under the 2013 red light report on the Oregon Legislature of the City of Fairview. I just had a couple quick questions I was hoping you could answer for me. One of them on page 7 is the effects of the use of cameras on public safety. And there is a bar graph that says Fairview residents issued red light tickets, and it started at 36, and in January 13th we're down at 25. Do you have data for others outside of Fairview?
Yes. What we did is Red Flex produces a zip code report. So we get data from all of the zip codes receiving citations. What we wanted to do is, one, look at Fairview zip code 97024, and next look at the surrounding zip codes and start a program. How can we reach out and extend that impact? Because it's clearly the citations issued to Fairview drivers is down, which is exactly what we were hoping for, about 34%. Let's get that out to the other neighboring jurisdictions as well. But I have a full report. We'll get it every month.
And then just another question, and just because I'm new and I don't know the answer, so I'm hoping that you can help me, but what is the cost associated with the red light cameras on a monthly basis?
Electricity, $60, $70 a month, I think, for the electricity. And then officers' time on duty approving or rejecting citations. which we haven't calculated. Pardon me, and then the court.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Councilor Quimby.
Another question on the effects, the use of cameras on public safety. We have the background information of the amount of accidents from ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation, on the accidents at our intersections. I believe it was like a 4.5-year period when we first discussed this. I was hoping to see a pie chart or graph chart of decrease or increase in accidents as a result. I remember that the primary goal was to reduce accidents.
Well, I disagree with you on that.
Oh, okay. But is there a chart or a graph?
I have not, we're waiting for a year's worth of data. We can go
Okay.
back, I'll be happy to ask for the accident. It's my understanding, I've been tracking, I get the call load every day. And I think there's been one traffic accident at that intersection that I'm aware of, that the individual was cited for because he said he was adjusting a radio dial or something like that and rear-ended a car. But we're going to ask, I've already talked to Sam about it, asking for the accident data. But I would remind council that I think there were 12 accidents in a 5-year period, 64% of them resulting in injury. So it was a high injury rate, not a lot of accidents. But I believe on the record, my position has always been to reduce the number of violations at the intersection. Violations equate ultimately to an accident that we hope to prevent. But we were not installing the camera. My recommendation was not due to a high level of accidents there. It was due to a high level of injuries at those accidents.
It's a high-speed intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll get that at the
And
after a
actually,
year.
I appreciate you bringing that up because, and I haven't even talked to Sam about this yet, and I'm not sure if it'll be in a budget proposal or what, but I know Gresham has a couple of the new signs that are up that tell you what, the speed limit is 35 and they're solar, and then it'll flash at you at a certain level. And I really hope that we can look at putting those on Fairview Parkway, both north and southbound, and try to slow cars down, which will also help with the red lights. And I haven't looked at the cost of those yet, but we'll get those back to you. It'd be a great use of the traffic safety money generated from the traffic safety classes, so the offenders would pay for it. It wouldn't come out of the general fund.
Anybody else?
But I'll get the accident data for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Very good, very good.
Okay, and Public Works Director Alan Berry.
Good evening, Mayor Weatherby, members of council. I haven't actually been up here giving a report for a while, so bear with me. The first one is, and Mayor Weatherby's asked this several times, about a crossing near the Fairview Oaks and Woods so that people can access Halsey and Gethley. I talked to the county, that's going to be in the Errata Road and the connection from Wood Village Way upgrade, and hopefully that will be this fall, followed right behind by our Sandy Boulevard improvements on 238. So just to let you know that that's in the works. Second one, Salish Ponds, and this is more from the members of public, because I know you all know, is open. It's wonderful. It's fabulous. We are not stocking it. ODF and W have stood us up twice now in terms of talking about it. We obviously don't want to stock it until the banks are restored, but we do need to have a plan that we've talked along. So that's one of the things that I think our Parks Committee will be certainly talking about. But the project is great. We're getting a lot of compliments from the public. A lot of people have got some great ideas, which we can, and I've told them there's no reason they can't come to our Parks Committee and express those. My next one, the CDBG grant, we applied for funds to, and we typically they have to be in the socio-economically eligible areas of Old Town. The meeting to talk about the grants is on the 29th of March, and then the public hearing will be on the 11th of April, and I'm really optimistic that we'll have the money there to do the sidewalks to complete Main Street and then go by the gazebo. I'm rushing because I know that the Parks Committee we will meet on the 21st of March on the Thursday. We'll be sending an agenda out, but just to give you an idea of the things that we want to talk about, and I know Councillor Quimby knows this, but we want to talk about Park Cleo and obviously the master plan, and we've talked about this playground equipment. I know that's of interest. But we also want to talk about that huge investment that we made in Salish, the idea of whether you want it, you can call it what you want, a Friends of Salish, a Friends of Fit, whatever you want, the idea of getting people to the park on patrols to look at it. And with that in mind, we're looking at putting a cover on the enclosure back here and keeping the surplus gator in there and get the volunteers to be able to get out there. Chief gets the rhino over there at times, but we want to get people there all the time so we can really make a presence. And then the other one on the, and I don't want to steal thunder, we had a great meeting last week with a public health lady, and one of the things in her information was community gardens. So we actually have added that on for us to talk about, because we do have community gardens at Park Cleo, and we'd like to talk about that. And I think that will be, I think everyone will get real excited about that. And then just moving on, the Economic Development Committee will meet next Thursday on the 14th. And Councillor Creamer, if you'd like to meet with myself and Erica and to kind of get ready, we haven't met for a while. If you want to get together, I call and we can.
Sure.
Yeah. But with that in mind, one of the things I sensed when we've met before is that perhaps we haven't been communicating the successes that we've had on economic development, you know, and there have been some great successes. A lot of times we can't talk about them because they have to stay under the radar until the business releases them. But just to let you know, Tucker Rocky, they're in Bircher Building A. They have 11 employees. They're an wholesale distributor for the power sports, ATVs, motorcycles, that kind of thing. They've got a very low profile. They don't have their name on the building, quite frankly. Intertech, and these are businesses that have moved in this last year and over. Intertech, which is an equivalent to like UL Label, and they test things like electric car chargers, things. They've got 21 employees in Birchesea. And then last but certainly not least is the big one, CTDI, where I'm going to give you a little sheet on that. So they're communications test designing, and what they do is they refurbish things like the boxes that you have in your television set for TV, cable, that kind of thing. They do that, a lot of that work for Comcast. They're trying to expand into Motorola, and they're on their temporary occupancy. They're about to get their final occupancy, and when they do that, they're going to have a ribbon cutting. But in the last couple of weeks, they've hired 18 people. And by the end of July, they expect to have 130 people working over there. And I know we haven't talked a lot about those things, but I just want to make sure that we know that economic development is alive and well and being pursued in the city of Fairview. It's a top priority. And in rough numbers, the Bircher building is about 80% capacity. Now, what's going to happen? What happens is we actually are talking to someone else down there who wants to do something else, but I can't elaborate too much. As the space becomes taken up, then then the vacant lots, and building on the vacant lots is the challenge. We meet with our realtor or the realtor down there all the time. We talk about it to our local partners. That's the next challenge, to get people to build. And then my last one on the EDAC is on the 21st. We actually have a pre-app for a 9-lot subdivision in Fairview. I know. So over near Wistful Vista, the the other was focused on the west side. And I think with that, I think that's about it for me. And if you've got any questions, I'll certainly be glad to try and answer them.
Yeah, Councilor Kremeyer.
I just have one. Can you give us a brief, we talked about it briefly last week, but just a status update and a timeline on 223rd over here north of Halsey by Divine Mocha with what the county's kind of looking at doing over there?
You know, that project, if it goes, it's a couple of years away, minimum. I think our Sandy Boulevard is the outer road and the Sandy Boulevard. Then that 223rd, I think it may be in the 2015 or 2016. That piece of that you're talking about there for those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Well, thank you very much. That was a lot of information, Alan.
And,
Great job.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to give you this because it's.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, next is Mayor Committee reports and council comments. So let's say Councilor Arnold, start there.
So for the last couple of weeks, I've been busy. I attended the Planning Commission meeting on the 26th and had the opportunity to introduce myself to all the commissioners, which was a great experience, and kind of got an update of what's going on. On the 27th, I attended the council planning session where we spent several hours reviewing what councils had come up with for goals in the past, and then we took that opportunity to do some brainstorming and come up with some goals for ourselves for the coming year. At the recommendation of the mayor, I attended the Reynolds Service District's Education Summit on the 28th, and had the opportunity to hear the superintendent for the schools in the state of Oregon talk about the 40-40-20, which is their goals for 40% college educated, 40% associates, and 20% high school education. So that's their goal, is 100%, and that's the breakdown of what they would like to have as far as education. And it was really about brainstorming with the community on how we can help facilitate that, working with business, working with government, on what we can do to be a part of that, to see our schools succeed. So it was a great opportunity. On the 1st, I met with our Public Works Director, Alan Berry, and Beth Kay from Heal Cities campaign to discuss ways to make our city healthier. And I'm very excited to give more information about that in our upcoming 3 Cities event coming up here in March. And then I also wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about our last council session. So the last council session resulted in what I feel a tremendous win for the citizens of Fairview. The council voted to fund the Fairview Easter egg hunt, the National Night Out, 2 bike rodeos, a veterans parade, and a Christmas tree lighting event. These events are great local events, each speaking to different interests within our city and generally focusing on our children. It is important to recognize the funding for these events come from our residents, and as such, the events should speak to the varying interests within our city and benefit our citizens. Our residents pay the bills, so the events should focus on their local interests. Much has been made about the city not funding Chili on the Green, which is unfortunate because many of you may not realize that all city events were canceled for the 2012-2013 budget cycle, except for Chili on the Green. A little history on the Chili may be helpful in sorting through some of the various points of view about the event. In 2010, the City Council formed the Fairview Community Arts Committee to manage the event for the following year. This decision was made in recognition of the need to reduce staff time on the event and to draw upon volunteers from within our community. After several resignations due to interference in early 2011, I was drafted to join the committee as the president in May of 2011. The committee found itself with a shortfall of about $10,000 based on previous year's budgets. We were encouraged to approach the council for additional funding because the city had historically spent more on the event in previous years. The Fairview Arts Committee and residents who fund our city, well, we all felt that the budget was adequate and that expenses could be curtailed to live within our means. Our committee made this proposal to the city council liaison, and it was rebuffed on the belief that scaling back would compromise the event in some way. The end result was the event was canceled by the city. One bright spot on the cancellation was the city adopted many of our recommendations with input on the 2012 Chili event. This is a victory because spending of the city was reduced from prior years. Despite these reductions, the city still funded to the tune of about $9,600, including staff time for this last year's event. This is not a profitable venue, as was stated during the last election, and it has taken a lot of pushing to get a true statement on the money spent by the city. Our friends of Fairview would have you believe a city-sponsored chili event is the key to economic development and community camaraderie. This is a fallacy unless you can prove a company moved to Fairview because of the chili event. I would also argue that many small events build more camaraderie within our city than one medium-sized. A majority of the 40 emails and letters that came to us were from outside of Fairview, which confirms my belief that our residents would prefer more smaller events that speak to a broader audience than a chili event. I do want to thank those people who took the time to share their concerns about losing the Chili Festival. Please know that your concerns were heard. Given the interest of private groups in sponsoring community events, I am hopeful that we can generate a policy that supports them in their endeavors but limits the city's financial burden. I've been speaking with our citizens the last few weeks about this issue, and their message has been made very clear to me. Focus on the things that really matter, like supporting efforts to bring business to Fairview, creating more local jobs, keeping our city clean and safe, and support our citizens with policies that enhance their lives. I knew coming into this position that there would be tough decisions. The last council meeting vote was difficult, but it was the right decision. It focused our limited funds on multiple events that serve our residents. The time is now to move forward and begin focusing our attention on how the city can support economic development, and I believe that as a council we can unite and do what is best for our citizens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Quimby.
I just have a couple of items. First one, Chief Johnson, I'm sorry, I forgot when you were up here. Over the last 2 or 3 years, usually during the summer, but it started up again already, I had been hearing a lot of high volume, loud engines and tires squealing continuously for up to 2 or 3 hours, almost nonstop. One time, a couple years ago, I went driving around neighborhoods trying to figure out where it was coming from because it was carrying so far. What I discovered was a whole bunch of import cars with loud pipes doing burnouts in between 2 of the buildings on the north side of Townsend Way in Townsend Farms. Apparently, they thought I was somebody that might get them in trouble, and they scattered when I drove through there. And I went back during the daylight, and there was just black circles everywhere from these cars. I noticed 2 nights ago it started up again. I don't know how often officers are able to go through there, but I'm sure if you went through there in the daylight, you're going to find a whole bunch of black burnout marks.
Time window? Do you know about what time?
It's always in the evening, after 8 o'clock, I'd say between, say, 7 and 11, maybe. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to start up again this summer on dry days. Thank you. The other thing is, as you all heard Alan address, and during the goal-setting session, I commented about the playground equipment at Park Leon, and I just want to reiterate to the citizens that contacted me in the last 2-3 months, and another one 2 nights ago, about the playground equipment, that we will get something there for you this summer. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Barton Mullins.
I have nothing.
Okay, Councilor Owen.
The only thing I had, Samantha, when you gave your report, I know we've got that Easter egg hunt coming up here before long. Would you mind just letting folks know, kind of, I guess, by consensus this evening, what we were planning on doing this year?
Yes, I will. Sorry, had to get my papers right in front of me. The city is going to utilize the funds to help the Eagles sponsor the annual Easter egg hunt that they host every year. Due to the fact that the city was not potentially going to fund events this year, they did move the annual Easter egg hunt to Donald Robertson Park. It's at 24300 Northeast Halsey in Wood Village. So they do have a schedule of times for the hunt. We will post this link to our website as well, so citizens have access to it. We will also post it in our park, so that if citizens show up in our community park for the Easter egg hunt, they'll be redirected to where it's at in Wood Village. And we will certainly try to encourage the Eagles to return to Fairview next year.
Okay, and so we'll be donating $300 then
Correct.
for the purchase of candy, and it'll be called, I guess, do you know for sure it'll be the Wood Village Fairview, or if you're a good negotiator, it'll be the Fairview Wood Village Easter egg hunt, or how's that
We'll
gonna
get
work?
Fairview in there somehow.
Okay, got it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I had this evening.
Okay. Councilor Kramer.
The only thing I have this evening. Sorry about that. Is I just want to say that I think we came up with some really, really good goals last week at our council goal-setting meeting, and I look forward to everybody on the council working together with the city staff to get these items prioritized and get some of these projects to come to fruition sooner than later. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And I have nothing. It will be in my Fairview State of the City. So as such, that's what we'll lead into. While Devry is setting up, I want everybody to know that I could feel the rising sense of expectation and eagerness for me to give this speech, and I want the people at home to know that there will be a quiz afterwards. Okay, this is Fairview's State of the City address I'm going to be giving you now. And I think I want to do this as a conversation, not as a read it from a piece of paper, first of all, because my eyes wouldn't allow it, but to discuss the issues that I see for us for the next year. I believe, and I've said before, and I believe it now, that we are a regional leader. We are not the biggest. We're not a Portland, we're not a Gresham, we're not a Troutdale. We do better than Wood Village, however. But I don't think it's a matter of size, it's what you do. I think it's the ideas, the goals, what our city is doing to step forward. And I think we have the council that can do it. Now, I think that what I want to stress is I see us as a regional leader through constructive progress. The concept of constructive progress isn't new. It's something that actually came out in the administration of Woodrow Wilson and the progress that he did. And that's my little history bit. But taking a look at it, constructive progress, what does that mean? Well, constructive means doing something. These are verbs. Progress means to move forward. So we're talking about the city of Fairview working forward, and the constructive part has to do, for instance, with economic development. What are we going to be doing? What are we going to how are we going to handle this? And I think that it is really important for us as a city to stress this. I think everyone in the council just about has talked about economic development. But economic development is something that is not taking a look at, well, let's take a look at Bally's, or let's look over here at the property at Fairview Parkway and 223rd, or we've got lots over here by City Hall or wherever. We need to look at this as a whole. And how do we do it? What's the tool? Well, we have something that's very important, and I believe as of this coming Friday, hopefully, that you'll be able to take a look at this through our website. And this is the visioning. We currently have a visioning statement. It's not something that was an exercise that people came forward, the citizens of our city, and those are who we're elected for. This is why we're here, the citizens. And this isn't just something that we pull out and everybody feels good and we have a kumbaya and a group hug. This is really important. This talks about who we are and what we want to do with our city. Not just one person with a piece of property, not just with a corporation, not just with an owner that lives somewhere and says, I think I want to do this with a building. These are just a part of it. We're talking about what does the community see? This involves the owners. This involves developers. This involves everyone. But this is about what the people of the city hope to see. And this is really important. Visioning is something for the future. Okay? Along this line, and this is some reiteration, is the committee that I formed, the Mayor's Committee for Fairview Visioning. What this does is looks at it, enhances one particular piece. This is economic development, in a sense. This is what are we going to do with the property, whether it be buildings that are in disuse, such as in valleys, or pieces of property that sit, some that are being built on, some that are being planned. But what do people want to see? What do we all want? What do we envision for our city? And how important is this? I think this is vital, because if we're going to move forward as a city, and if we're going to have constructive progress, then what we have to do is have something in mind. Instead of plodding along, and taking a look at one thing at a time, to take a look at it. We have different neighborhoods within the city. We have Old Town, we have the area around the lake. We have Fairview Village. We have Sandy area, and the other area over by Ray's Meadows and 205th. But something called Gestalt says that the sum of the parts is greater than the parts unified. Taking a look at our city, not a district, not what's good for the village or what's good for the lakes or what's good for whatever piece we're looking at, but what is good for our whole city. Because the concept is really important for us. So what we need to do, and again, this is something that is out of the realm of the political realm. This is something that is supposed to be from the groundwork up. This is something that here, as an elected person, if you keep your ear to the ground, if you talk to people, these are the citizens. These are the people that are expressing their interest. Now, they may have something that is particular to them at the point in time, whether or not we need a special ordinance for this or that. But it all fits into the jigsaw puzzle. It is all part of it. And so to talk about this is something to do with where we are going to be as a city. And it is surrounded by the issue of economic development, talking about how we are going to develop our city to the maximum so that we will take and develop a good quality of life, better than we have now, and every day to increase. So in other words, that this city will grow and prosper. The next thing is leadership, I mentioned before. And this link and leadership is strength through partnering. Now what that means is this, something that I have started that hasn't gone on for years literally, is first of all the 4 cities meeting, where the city councils of all 4 cities sit down, say on a quarterly basis or whatever, and talk about issues that concern everyone. We don't sit out like Baker or Burns or Newport or Oregon City, where the next city is across a river, miles away, or whatever. We're adjoining. We can look across the street and see another city. And we have to work together. We have the county, except for the city of Gresham, the county owns the very arterials that we have, the roads. We share a bus system. Everything we do is important because of the cities and the neighborhoods are so conjoined. So the other thing I'm doing is next week we're going to, what's the date again, Samantha, for the 3-city meeting?
March 14th.
Thank you, March 14th, for the 3-city meeting. So this is something that I'm hoping everyone on council will attend, and of course it's a public meeting. It'll be here, and people can sit and watch. This is going to be something, again, where we sit down and talk about everything. Councilor Arnold has submitted something about health, a health issue. We're talking about sharing resources, which Samantha talked about. All these things are leadership. These are things that affect our citizens because this has to do with tax dollars, how we can save things. Let's talk about sharing, for instance. Let's say that Fairview and Troutdale each buy a truck, a loader, but neither of them use the loader, for instance, full-time. So what about, say, Troutdale, for instance, buy the loader, and we put some money in towards using it as we need it? It would be like if someone down the street buys a particularly important piece of equipment, and you take and borrow it, and you fill it with gas if it has an engine, or you clean it up, but it's a sharing so that everyone benefits, so that everyone doesn't duplicate services, so that whether you save money today, you can save it tomorrow. You build bonds, you build strength, and you build your community. The visioning is important. Everyone knows that we're going to be having things, and every city has events coming up. Every city has building. We're going to have, I've talked about Providence. Now that's not something that's going to happen, as we all know, next year. It may be years from now, maybe 6 years or more. Okay, I talk about it sometimes with a sense of immediacy, because to me, I can see it as the vision of something to happen. To me, I want to see progress. To me, I want to see things happening. So I look at the nearness. I look at the glass full, half full, and not half empty. So building partnerships is a part of the strength that we can bring. We don't have Gresham initiating these meetings. We don't have Troutdale or Wood Village. Fairview does this. I'm not putting anyone down in these other cities because they're very, very they're appropriate people to have them, to use them, to do them, to share with us. But we are doing this. We are the ones bringing this up. And I know from the Four Cities meeting, I've got nothing but positive feedback from it. Finally, I know this is too short for everyone to keep going, but hopes and dreams. So I think this is something that is really open-ended for everyone, because this is, again, is a part of the whole visioning thing. It isn't something where it's a book and you set it down, like, for instance, the visioning statement, and that's it. It should be something that's living and breathing, something that's rejuvenated and looked at maybe next year, maybe 2 years down the line, maybe 5 years, whatever. This should be something we're all working toward. And to take and look at our community and to have hopes and dreams for what we want to be is important. It isn't a static community that's the same now as it's always been. This is growing, and we have new people being born, moving in all the time. And I think that what we're going to see is a future that we're going to decide what's going to happen. It will be our future, but we will be the ones to help it. We're not going to be sitting passively saying, well, geez, I wish I'll wring my hands and hope that somebody comes in here. What are we going to do about helping? Are we going to take and make something shovel-ready? Are we going to help with permitting? We're a small city, but this is, again, is going to be something this visioning committee will look at. What can we as a small city do? But it's really important to be the catalyst for something that is a new beginning, but is beginning that happens all the time. So with that, I want to thank you all, and I've completed my speech. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next is I turn to Council President Barton Mullins, and she has a little something to say.
Well, I'm here to explain about the council goals. Last week, we got together as a council and we talked about the goals that we wanted to see for the next 12 to 18 months. The meeting went really well. There was lots and lots of great ideas. I'm not going to sit here and read them all to you, but I will highlight a few. There was quite a few suggestions in the capital improvements. Our main concern were streets and sidewalk safety, and also parks. For instance, prioritize street crossing safety issues in Old Town, specifically at 7th and Lincoln. It's really important to put the kids first. It could be a potential dangerous road that they don't have any place to walk except in the street. So, and another one is to fast track the master planning process for Park Cleone to install play equipment as soon as possible, since all that equipment was taken out. City branding, we had a couple of ideas for that. One was to improve signage at I-84 and Fairview Parkway, possibly to look like the sign that is at Eastman Parkway and Gleason. The sign that's out there is really old and doesn't, it certainly isn't inviting. So, community. We had a couple of ideas with community. One was to reinstate the citizen and volunteer recognition event and programs, such as having a writing contest, possibly with the middle school kids about, what they like about Fairview, or something along that line. They could come and read it here at the council meeting. We could have awards for Citizen of the Year and things like that. Economic development, there was lots of great ideas for economic development. A couple of those were to review and change zoning as appropriate for available properties to maximize development potentials. Another was aggressive economic development to create full-time economic development position. Excuse me, or reinstate community development focused position. Fiscal responsibility, again, there was a couple of those. Explore and adopt ending fund balance policy to define surplus and what to do with it on an ongoing basis. Public safety, once again, we have to determine funding for providing 2 officers on duty, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What we're going to do with this list is the counselors over the next week are going to prioritize all of the goals that we have and basically start working on them. All of the goals in this report will be on the website. Is that correct? Coming up, so you can look at all of them, and certainly would love to hear some comments about the goals that we've set up. And I think that the prioritization will also be on there when we get to that point. Again, that should be done hopefully in the next week. So we had a great session. I'm very proud of a lot of the goals that we set up. I think they're almost all of them are very attainable within that time period. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Okay, next is something that we've started having at the suggestion of Councilor Arnold. This is new council business discussion. So open that up and see if there's anyone who'd like to say something. Yes, Councilor Owen.
Just because I didn't speak up quick enough just a minute ago, not necessarily new council business discussion, but Samantha, as part of the council goals, and I understand that we collectively are going to go through and prioritize these because it's probably not reasonable to accomplish all of these in 12 to 18 months, but some of these things have dollars tied to them. So if there's a chance that maybe from a staff perspective, you could go through and just provide a best estimate, like if you were told tomorrow that you needed to budget, include this in your budget, what does all this cost?
Absolutely.
Because I mean, these are some really good things to consider, but we also need to be able to afford to do it. So that would be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then council business and public hearings. The Budget Committee appointment. Resolution 13-2013. So, since the council has taken a look at and had a chance to interview and take a look at all the resumes for everyone, I guess I would open up to motions.
Yeah, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, not sure how this is going to go, and we had a really good meeting this evening as it relates to people applying for the Budget Committee, and while we only have one position, we had, I think it was 4 interviews this evening, and we had Daryl Cornelius, which of course was out of town, so he wasn't actually able to be here. What I would like to do is encourage anyone that doesn't get appointed tonight to seriously consider taking part in the Budget Committee meetings this year, because typically what I've seen through the years is we have 14 members of the Budget Committee, but we have very little participation from just other citizens of Fairview, just like ourselves. We're all citizens of Fairview. And so these folks have at least expressed an interest to be on the Budget Committee. Problem being, there's only one position. So if they would take that energy and come out and provide input during the public comment and reach out to us, it would make the whole decision process easier. And so with that, I'd like to make a motion to appoint George Lingelbach to the Budget Committee. He has been involved with the Drainage District for about 10 years or so. I mean, has a lot of experience as it relates to, budgets of similar type expense needs that the city has. So that would be my motion.
Second.
Then moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councilor Barton Mullins.
Yeah, this is a really tough decision. I was very impressed with all the applications. We had several people I felt that were more than qualified to be on the Budget Committee. But as Councilor Owen just explained, Mr. Lingelbach's qualifications, anyway, I feel real strong about going ahead and supporting him.
Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Quimby.
I just want to say the same thing. We had some outstanding applicants. Very difficult decision. No bad people interviewed tonight. Tough decision.
Thank you. Well, I think we all agree. I've said this before in the interviews. We had an excellent group of people. Hard to find. My memory, I can't remember the last time we had so many really great applicants, all of them, except maybe when they applied for the last council position, Councilor Arnold. So anyway, and if there's nothing else, I'll ask all those in favor of George Lingelbach, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
2. So it passes 5-2. Congratulations, or
4 to
4-2,
2.
sorry about that. Math.
Yeah. Mayor, can we do a roll call vote so I can get the votes on
Got
record,
it.
please? Counselor Kremeyer?
Aye. Yes.
Counselor Owen?
Yes.
Counselor Barton Mullins?
Yes.
Counselor Quimby?
Nay.
Counselor Arnold?
Nay.
Mayor Weatherby?
Yes. So it passed 4-2. Congratulations, George. And thank you, everyone else. I really hope that you keep involved. This was not an easy decision. Okay. Next is item B, city endorsement of the East County Bite. Resolution 14-2013. Samantha?
Yes, Mayor, this is the resolution that council passed a motion at the last special meeting on the 27th, directing staff to draft. And we did make we made a minor change to the original resolution that was sent out as part of the packet. We did eliminate a language with regards to current Fairview business licenses. That did not apply to the situation, so we make sure we took that out. So you do have that revised resolution in front of you, but this is what was to reflect the motion from the 27th.
Okay, Councilor Owen.
Just to clarify, is it okay to ask about the resolution right now? Is that, I'm good to ask questions about it? Okay. You know, at the last meeting, and Dan and I even kind of had a side conversation here, so maybe kind of jumping out here a little bit, but I know we talked about, you know, would it cost money to get in? And I think what we discussed last time is that there was like a suggested donation of some food, canned food, maybe, kind of, in lieu of maybe like a $5 gate fee. Is that what was said? I'm sorry, Garth. I can't hear you that good. You want to come up? Is that okay? So he just comes up just to kind of clarify. I mean, that's, I think, the main thing to get clarified.
Garth Everhart, 954 Northeast Clear Creek Way, Fairview. We patterned it after the Portland Bite, and at the Portland Bite, you pay a donation, we call it a donation, or you give canned food.
Okay. So it'd be like so it'd be $5 or a suggested donation.
Like that, that's all handled by Zerapath because they collect the food, they collect the funds. It doesn't go through the FBA.
Okay. And so I guess my question then is, just hang on a second here, okay? So Heather, from your standpoint, so within the resolution it says here, the FBA is registered state of Oregon. I don't think, okay, I don't care about that. And the event will be free and open to the public. So free and open to the public, I mean, does that still allow them to have a $5 gate fee or a suggested donation? Because if someone doesn't make...
If that's your intent and that's what you want to require, then you should clarify that in the resolution. Right now it says it's free and open to the public, so that requirement would be that it's, you know, it's an event where the public could just come. So if you want that to be the requirement, then I would advise that you amend the resolution to reflect what the actual reality will be.
I mean, Garth, is the intent, I mean, let's say somebody doesn't bring in food. I mean, are you not going to let them in?
No, but it's one of those things that the goal is to raise significant money for, the Zerapath people would like to raise at least $5,000. That's why this is their first public venue.
Right.
And they feel like they're interested in the food, but frankly, they said to me, we can buy a lot more food for the money we get than just people giving us food. They can buy food through the Oregon Food Bank very cheaply. And so their real interest is to have cash to buy food for their thing. So we will live to, if we need to not charge to satisfy this policy for endorsement, then we just need to work with Zerapath, and if that isn't going to work for them, then we'll just pay the normal permit fees and skip the endorsement. I mean, my understanding is this is just whether or not we get endorsed. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of my understanding too.
So if Zerapath feels like they're not going to be able to achieve the funding goals that they do, by because we're paying for bands and all these things, and if people just come and take part, then if that makes them kind of queasy, like they're not going to get their goals, because this is the first event they've done, so they kind of want it to hit a minimum threshold.
Sure.
We asked them, what is it that you want out of this? Because we need to sculpt this to fit what you want. Mm-hmm. And if that is, I mean, we're talking about saving $400 fees here. So if that becomes a hiccup for the city, then we'll just go with not being non-endorsed. We'll just skip the endorsement.
Right. I mean, because
it's open to the public. It is open to the public.
Sure.
It's just the question of fencing it off
Sure.
and controlling it and things like that.
I mean, and I mean, I'm definitely interested in hearing what other people have to say here, because I guess I was kind of operating under the impression that, that it was call it, I guess, a free event, and that's why the city was going to waive the fees, and the fees are like $425. Or it was, I think, like what you just said, it's going to be not necessarily a for-profit, but I mean, the idea is to try to generate cash for a charity.
Yeah, it's a nonprofit. I mean, we basically see ourselves as hosting Zarapath and kind of helping them, because they don't have the ability to do some of these on their own, because their board, they've got, I think, a board of 10. I think 7 of the people are the people who work in the kitchen. So they don't really have the expertise or the group to help them put on an event like this.
Yeah. See, because my deal is that, I mean, it's only $425 of waived fees. I mean, you can make an argument that it's not real money, but, I mean, we establish fees and permitting to cover costs that we have done cost studies on at some point to make us whole. I mean, all I've ever heard is we only charge enough fees to cover our costs. I mean, some people may not agree with that or think that our fees are too much. But I guess if we waive the fees and allow the East County Bite to charge a gate admission, what are we going to do when the next group comes? I mean, are we going to continue to waive fees and let other groups be in a position to charge a gate fee? To me, personally, it would just seem cleaner, if you're going to have a private event for a charity and you're going to charge a gate admission, it would seem clearer to me to pay the permit fee and press on. And that's just me talking, right?
Okay. I would argue that the staff is working no matter whether or not they're issuing permits, so I'm not sure what the real impact is on the city. I would take the other side of your argument.
Yeah. And I know we could go back and forth,
We're
but
happy
we're
for
not
it.
going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Barton Holmes.
I just wanted to say, I guess that I'm happy that we're having an event, and I certainly hope that more events like this come to Fairview. This has been a real struggle this year between the Chili Festival and the Bite, and I hope we're getting to the end of this. I did want to say, just to be fiscally transparent, that obviously we're not writing the FBA a check or anything, but we are waiving fees, and the total of that is $650 actually, that we are giving to them, that if we weren't, would go into the general fund. I am okay with waiving these funds to get these types of activities going again in Fairview. So anyway, I will be voting for this.
Okay, Councilor Arnold.
Well, I guess I just want some clarification. To be honest with you, I'm really confused. So my understanding is that after we left our last meeting 2 weeks ago, last week when we had a special meeting for this, that we made a motion to approve and endorse this event. And now we're presented with a resolution that seems redundant, and I'm confused. I thought we were coming back today with a resolution that developed and talked about policy for endorsed and non-endorsed and future events. To me, this has been taken care of. I'm confused.
At the last meeting, the motion was amended for staff to come back with a resolution setting out the criteria for this event. That was my understanding of what the council did at the last meeting. So it wasn't, the staff will come back at a future date with the criteria more, fleshed out. But this was related directly to the resolution for the East Bite event.
So misunderstanding. Then the other piece of that is, I'm glad to see that we took out the verbiage of nonprofits, but I do have concerns about the open and free to the public. I feel strongly that we don't dictate that, that is the organization's, up to the organization to decide. They have to cover their costs, and putting on these festivals, as we well know, are not cheap. And if that means that they have to charge a nominal fee, who are we to say that has to be open and free to the public? It makes no sense to me.
Okay. Councilor Quimby.
Hey, I just have one question for the FBA. Garth, I'm not real clear now. Were you planning a fixed enforced gate fee of $5, or was it going to be donations? Or a suggested donation of $5?
Suggested donations you can't enforce. As you see at these events, you have a suggested donation of $3 or $4 or a couple cans of food. You can't really enforce those because it's a suggested donation. If it's not, otherwise it's a fee. So we're just patterning it kind of after the Port of Bite does it. It's suggested donations, and I don't know if they turn people away or not. I have not been on the enforcement side of Port of Bite. We're just kind of patterning ourselves after them because they're very successful at it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Kramer.
I still have one more.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was just my question for the FBA. In the resolution, it's got, the business license language was taken out, but current Fairview business address, and I guess it's potentially a moot point if this is just about this East County Bite, but I was a little concerned if we pattern a blanket resolution in the future for all groups that come along, and it says requirement is a City of Fairview address. If Red Cross or somebody that comes in here with a state or a national address or any other group like that that's larger and has a post office box in Salem or Washington D.C. or anywhere else, I guess I just wanted to be clear about if we're granting favor status to people who are just nonprofits in Fairview, because it's my understanding, like in this case, Zerapath is in Gresham. So I don't know where their post office box is, but I doubt if it's in Fairview. So could you clarify that?
Absolutely. As I talked with Councilor Arnold last week, in drafting this, it was just to reflect the situation that surrounds this particular event, so that we just kind of had a starting point. We do anticipate and would expect that there's always going to be the exception. There's always going to be the larger company that comes in that is sponsoring, breast cancer awareness or, those kind of things, and may not have a local address here. So we would hope that in the future, when the full criteria and the formal documents actually reviewed and approved by council, that we would include some language to allow for those situations in the future, because absolutely, those are certainly things that we don't want to have excluded when it makes sense to support them.
Okay.
I think it also makes sense to have the list of criteria, but not say you must meet every single criteria. These are criteria that the city will take into account. You could say something to the effect of meeting 3 out of 5, or however many criteria you have, so that you're not making this bullet list and they have to get everything, because each event is going to be different. So there's going to be different concerns you're going to want to take into account. So that's probably what I would
I had this vision of dozens of outside organizations needing to come to FBA or somebody local just to tag off of their post office box, and I didn't want that to happen, and I didn't want us to have to have a special resolution for everybody that comes along in the future.
Absolutely. I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilor Kremeyer.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of these things, like Samantha just, talked about. I think a lot of these issues can be discussed and worked out when we actually, are in the process of drafting the formal, the formal code or the resolution, whatever it is that we're going to put together, and we're going to make the policy of the city. I think, in my opinion, for this particular resolution, I would think that, in my opinion, that the event will be free and open to the public portion of the resolution should probably be removed, for the simple fact that it doesn't muddy the waters or cloud the waters if they do have a suggested donation that is going to go to a charity. It's not like the FBA that's putting on the event is the one that's going to be profiting and benefiting from the proceeds from the gate admission. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Owen.
I really want to just have this done. I hear what we're saying as it relates to the, the gate admission. I guess I don't personally, and, I'm not the legal guy here, but I don't see anything that would preclude them from having a sign that says, suggested donation, cans of food, or $3 or $5 or whatever it is. But the reality is it is free. I mean, people can go through the gate. I mean, the city's providing funding. I mean, they're providing tax value, I guess, for what we're trying to accomplish here. I mean, I truly hope the event is a success. So, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 14, 2013 as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay,
Mayor, I'd like to amend the motion to delete the section that says registered nonprofit are open and free to the public.
Okay, is there a second?
What you have to do is vote on the first motion that's on the floor that was seconded, and then you can move to the next.
Thank you. Okay, given that, Councilor Quimby.
I just had one other thing I wanted to mention, that there's been chit-chat and Facebook postings and newspaper postings suggesting that this is somehow a replacement for the Chili Fest. Not at all. It's completely different, and the original date of this was picked specifically to avoid a conflict of the Chili Fest should it occur. This is a fundraiser for a food bank. This is not a Chili Fest, and that needs to be made clear to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right. All those in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Could we call a roll, please?
Yes. Counselor Kremeyer.
No.
Counselor Owen.
Yes.
Counselor Barton Mullins.
Yes.
Counselor Quimby.
No.
Counselor Arnold.
No.
Mayor Weatherby.
Yes. So, without a majority, the motion failed. Anything? Councilor Quimby.
I don't know if this is going to go anywhere because we're going to end up with a tie vote, but I'm going to move to approve Resolution 14-2013 and striking the words "and free."
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? No discussion? Okay. All those in favor of
Can I ask
the...
for clarification of the language? You wanted to strike in section 1, just to make sure that you get the language right. That would be free and? Is that what you
I'm
wanted to
sorry.
strike? Under section
No,
1?
2 words. The third line of the 4th paragraph, the line says City of Fairview business address and number 4 are open, strike, and free. to the public.
And then did you also want to amend the actual resolution?
Yes.
And the free and, on section 1, sorry. It's under section 1, and then it's like the very last line there.
I don't see where it says section 1.
Under count, go down further.
Oh,
There
okay,
you go.
I'm sorry.
Free and, so it says open to the public.
Ah, there it is.
Okay, free.
Is that the amendment you wanted to make?
Yes, yes, the same two words reversed in that section 1.
Okay, do we have, is the wording clear? Everybody clear on it? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. It is 4-1, passed.
I'm not quite clear on the vote. Can we do a roll call again? It's
5-1.
hard when-
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Counselor Kremeyer?
Yes.
Counselor Owen?
No.
Counselor Barton Mullins?
Yes.
Counselor Quimby?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Mayor Weatherby?
Yes. So it's 5-1, passed. Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.